In South Africa, it is very easy to identify and complain about problems because we can all see them and they affect us all. But I think it's equally important to identify solutions and to speak them as publicly and as often as we can. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. Because although I'm just a random white guy in a wheelchair who lives in Durban with no power to implement or enforce these solutions, I do have a mind and this small platform on which to express my views. So that's what I'm going to do. The first thing that would need to happen in order to improve the living conditions in South Africa would be to drastically cut government spending. South Africa is an insane country in many ways because, for example, we have politicians who live in mansions while ordinary citizens live in homes that can barely be considered buildings, whether it's mud huts or corrugated iron shacks. That is unacceptable. The fact that our leaders live like kings, literally, while ordinary people starve and wonder from day to day where the next meal is going to come from. Secondly, in order to improve the standards of South African life, we need to improve the standards of education because once you have education and a greater understanding of the world around you and how life works, you can make better choices and better the lives of yourself and your family. And then we need to address crime because South Africa, let's make no bones about it, is a deeply violent place. And this is because since the end of apartheid, the ANC led government has been extremely soft on crime, and we've now gotten to a point where criminal syndicates operate in almost every aspect of South African life, and they do so because they know they can get away with it. If we had a government that had a heavier hand towards criminals and killed them when they did harm to law abiding citizens without worrying about their rights, South Africa would improve immensely. These things would be fairly simple solutions to implement. Obviously, it would take a lot of work, but in principle, these are not complicated issues, and they could be sorted out fairly quickly within the span of a few years if we had leaders who really cared about the welfare of the people they are supposed to serve. The biggest problem we have is that, in my view, and the view of basically anyone with a working brain, the reason that things are so bad in South Africa is that our leaders actively profit from this country's downfall. Now, why do I think that? Well, as I said, criminal syndicates operate in almost every aspect of South African life, whether that's construction, whether that's water, whether that's business. Really, anywhere where major infrastructure exists, there is a criminal syndicate manipulating contracts and slowing up projects for their own benefit, often with ties directly to people in politics. So the reason why South Africans continue to suffer under crime, poverty, unemployment, and violence is that it makes politicians rich. And as long as they themselves and their friends and families are rich, they don't care how many poor people die, nor what the race of those poor people is. Understand that it doesn't matter if a politician is black and you're black. You are not living in the same world they are. As long as they have their millions and they get to drive their fancy European cars and drink their fancy European alcohol, They don't care if you can't afford to pay rent or to put food on the table. They will leave you to suffer in poverty while they live like royalty. So that is why, even though I think that the solutions to South Africa's problems could be implemented, they most likely won't be, because evil people benefit from the suffering of ordinary citizens. I hope, as always, that you found some use in this content. As always, look after yourselves, take care of each other, and for now, farewell.